Are you ready to get woke? Welcome to the Woke as podcast with your host, Alex Lazarev.
I realize I'm just a random face to you. Like, who's this guy? So I'll give you my 60 seconds of who I am and why I'm on the planet.
All right.
And then I'll ask you the same, and we'll just have a chat about whatever inspires you.
Okay.
So I'm Alex. I'm known as Sasha Daygame. It's one of my personalities. And tough childhood, ran away from home at 15, started doing stand-up at 17, professional comedian all my life. Had my first sort of awakening with all beings experience in 2009, realized we all reincarnate, there's no death, we're all one, blah, 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 and started down that path. So I've been doing a lot of self-work, dealing with the shit, dealing with the programming, opening up the heart, getting out of the head, just, heavy down that path, work with ayahuasca and San Pedro, all this kind of stuff. And have known for years that my only reason for incarnating is to wake people up, raise their frequency, and recognize that we're all one so that we can create peace on earth. And millions of us are here doing that work. There's no other reason for me to be here. That's the only thing I concern myself with, waking people up to the truth of reality, truth of who and what we are. That's why I'm here. And so my podcast is called the Woke as Fuck Podcast, because we want to get everyone woke as fuck. And the running joke is, if you're listening to the podcast, you have to be at least 1% woke, because if you're at least asking questions like, who am I, how can I improve, what's going on? If you're 0%, if you're totally asleep, you're not listening to this podcast. If you're 1%, you might be. And you might be anywhere up to 99.99% woke. But if you hit 100 and you reach full enlightenment, guess what? You leave the body. So this podcast is me talking to other people who are seekers on this journey to awakening, and anyone who's between 1 and 99%, anyone who's on the path, they're my spiritual brother or sister, and we just want to share that love and share the knowledge and give everyone the information to work on their own shit and fix themselves and work on themselves and find that self-love so they can take that onto the world and change the planet. And that's what we're doing.
All right. Great.
So
thank you for using humor to do that, especially.
Well, you have to, because shit is getting heavy, So things are heavy out there. So I saw your movie, as probably millions of people, 2012, and not to sound like I know everything, but I knew a lot of the stuff in the movie.
Sure.
But the thought that was going through my head was, holy fuck, there's an actual movie where someone's telling people what's going on, So that was the moment of like, wow, there might be some mass awakening here, because it's a fucking movie, and this guy's telling people what's up. So that was a really amazing moment. I remember I was in London watching it, just going, holy fuck, I'm not, see, there's other people talking about this stuff too.
I'm not crazy.
But of course, in my circles, everyone's like me, so everyone knows. But it's an amazing thing to be able to do when you have a little I'm sure you've been through this so many times where you meet somebody and they're just not ready for the information. They're closed off, and you know as well as I do, you cannot. If someone's not ready to wake up, they're not going to wake up. When they're ready, they're ready. But it's such a powerful thing to be able to have a movie that's really well structured and well delivered and well thought out and just well put together, that's easily watchable. It's entertaining. It's interesting, right? To be able to say, hey, man, you know what? You should check out this movie. You might not like it, but you might like it. And it's just such an amazing tool to say, hey, man, you know what? If you really want to know what's going on, check out this film. And then people can decide for themselves. And they can either come back to you and talk to you, or they can go, fuck this shit. But it's so much easier as a tool. So I think it's really, really powerful. And it's an amazing thing you've done for the consciousness of humanity and the planet. So just amazing. Real honor to have you here on the podcast.
Wow.
And the only thing I could ask is, what inspires you the most today, this day? We're at Anarchapulco. You've met some amazing people. What is the message that you want to bring to the people who are, on the path to becoming, awake and conscious? What is it that you want to share with the world that you haven't already said? Maybe there's something new that you want to share. What's exciting for you today?
Well, let me just first start by thanking you for that acknowledgement, because there's truly nothing that I would rather hear than that it saved you time and that you trusted it to give to your friends, to save them time. Because that's why I spent a lot of time trying to boil, a lifetime of exploration into 2 hours so that it could save other people's time, because we don't have that much time to wake up to this kind of thing. So thank you for opening to it and then trusting it and passing it on. So in terms of my message, I'm really interested in the science of love. I'm blessed with tremendous love in my life. I'm grateful every morning when I wake up. First of all, a very rare circumstance, I was blessed with fantastic parents. I hardly meet anybody who says that. Unconditionally loving mother and a father of absolute integrity. He wasn't the warmest cookie on the sheet, but he was absolutely honest. And so those were my examples. And that gave me the safety to begin questioning at an early age. I also discovered, in my late teens that I was going to inherit some money that would give me some time. And the main thing that time has facilitated is me following those questions. And I realized that most people don't have the time or the ability to, risk losing their job by finding difficult information, sharing difficult information, and that I did. And there was also a passion for me. I've been a truth seeker literally as long as I can remember, into kindergarten. Even though I was a short kid at the time, I was very enthusiastic, and what I was enthusiastic about, one of the things I was enthusiastic about was breaking up fights. And so I would get myself into predicaments, and I just kept saying, even in kindergarten, I said, this is not necessary, this is not necessary. Even, arguments and name-calling and so forth, this is not necessary. So later on, I realized, I know that I'm right, but I don't know what that really means. So I ended up studying martial arts and studying communication and conflict resolution, and then did both of those things professionally for many years. And then I got into science, especially to try to solve the riddle of how can we enjoy life without blowing ourselves up. And so I really wanted to explore the energy issue, to think, what is energy? I'm energy, it's energy. How can we relate to each other and to technology and nature in such a way that we can actually thrive instead of destroying ourselves in a nuclear holocaust? And that does take a lot of time. And so when I graduated from college, I had created the filmmaking department at my school. People assumed I would go to Hollywood and make films, and I said, no, I have no idea. I don't have anything to say that is important enough yet to spend all that money and time and technology hassle and all that kind of stuff. But I said, what I'm interested in is what's in the way of humanity thriving. And when I find answers to that make sense and solutions that are commensurate to the challenge, then I'll make a movie. And I thought, humbly, maybe it'll take 5 or 10 years. Well, 42 years later, I said to my friends and to my wife, okay, I'm ready. I want to make this movie, and we're going to call it Thrive. And we did.
Wow, 42 years. So you were how old when you decided that you were actually going to do it? That's a long time.
I was 56.
Okay. And it took how many years to actually?
It took 10 years 2 years kind of in early preparation, then 8 years of actually producing the film on the website. And it came out 5 years ago.
Okay, that's a serious commitment there.
And then it's a film about love, but not just like, ooh, isn't that girl hot? Or I used to love that person, but I don't anymore, and all that kind of stuff. I was a martial artist for many years, and the one that really captivated me was Aikido, which is a nonviolent martial art, how to resolve conflict without violence. And that educated me that it's possible. And it also gave me a lot of experiences in my body and strategies in my mind for how humanity actually could solve problems without violence. And that's what interested me in what is it about love that is actually would survive the scientific method. And ultimately now I see, in looking back, that for me, in many ways, love is an experience of aligning with natural patterning, with natural forces. If you walk around bent over to the left for an hour, you're going to be really sore. You're going to get feedback from the universe. No, that's not aligning with the natural flow of what scientists like to call gravity. And if you call people names and condescend to them and so forth, your relationships aren't going to work out, and you're going to get feedback from the universe. So what is it on the physical level, on the emotional level, on the mental level, on the spiritual level? What are the laws that we're looking to understand that can have us actually align with natural forces? And for me, there were 3 major breakthroughs. The first one was when I found Aikido, and I realized, okay, you can be ultimately powerful and ultimately gentle at the same time. The second one was when I saw my first free energy device that was working. And I realized that, this is the same thing. This scientist has looked to see how energy is moving, which is what you do in Aikido. Energy is moving towards you, you blend with it instead of resisting it. These devices would move in the same toroidal fundamental energy pattern of the universe, and then they would be tuned into resonance rather than resistance, to harmony rather than conflict, with literally the infinite flow of life energy. And when you get it right, it's like tuning your guitars with another musician. When you get it right, all of a sudden it's whoa, and it just starts pouring out all the energy that you need. And so that was my second one. Then the third one, and the reason I'm here today having this conversation with you, is that I discovered that toroidal pattern, which is true in Aikido and it's true in free energy, that at the human level, the fundamental pattern is not the group, as I had been brainwashed into, but it is the individual. The group is an abstraction. The individuals are real. Each individual is a torus, and we're responsible for tuning our own torus, and we're responsible for not invading anyone else's. So once I realized that and began to learn about the philosophy and the economics and so forth behind the non-aggression principle, the liberty movement and so forth, I realized, okay, this is what I've been looking for all my life, because the people who are onto this are actually truth seekers to the level where they're looking for that experience of love with themselves and with one another in a rigorous scientific fashion.
You know, it's so fascinating talking to you, because what was going through my head was, when you're talking about this movement, you know, I've met a lot of people who they say they're anarchists or whatever, so they're kind of like, yeah, down the government, F the system, all this kind of stuff. But they're not really conscious in that they're not recognizing that love is actually what everyone's after. They're not doing the self-work. They're not looking at themselves and saying, I'm fucked up. I'm damaged from the system. I'm damaged from my parents. I need to deal with my own pain and process it and open up my heart and get out of my head and love. And from that love place, go change the world. And I think at this event, there's a lot more people speaking about it. Max, again, just did a talk. You did a talk. So a lot more people who are conscious, who are bringing that energy. And it's so important, because we cannot manifest the world that we want to if we're up in our heads that are all fucked up and damaged. We have to be coming from our hearts. We have to feel that love for ourselves and for all of humanity. And from that place, we really can create paradise on earth. So It's amazing to hear
and you can't do it without it, ultimately.
No.
And just like we're reclaiming the words anarchy, we're reclaiming the word capitalism, we also need to reclaim the word love and have it be very real. And that's what I see going on. It's why I particularly love being with this kind of group, because you can sit down anywhere and go anywhere in the conversation with whoever you're talking to, because there's a certain base level of people have sought enough truth that they found the liberty principle. They've found what transcends power politics to actually have human beings getting along.
What strikes me as weird, and I'm sure you've heard this before, is that we're the small, weird, culty group that's trying to go against the tide. It's just like everybody wants fucking freedom and liberty and love. How far gone is humanity, where we're the small movement, that's on the fringe, and everyone else is just in the matrix? It's weird. It's just creepy.
One of the things that I am really feeling privileged about is that I get to travel all over the world, and I'm seeing this hologram, just like at this conference. I'm seeing that in every community that I visited around the world. I don't think that there is I don't know about the numbers, but I know it's huge, and I don't know of a more vigorously growing movement in the world than the liberty movement, for several reasons. One, because there's no coercion involved, so it's naturally reinforcing. Secondly, I've noticed that the smartest people that I know, if they're not only intelligent but open-minded, actually willing to, hold ideas in their mind without buying it till it feels real for you, that those people, one by one, are finding these realizations, and nobody's going back once they find it. And that, to me, in my previous life, the same with me. I tried all sorts of martial arts until I found Aikido. Once I found that, there's no going back, because this is actually the one that opens to the entire universe, and which there's no conflict between your morality and your physical expression.
Right. It's so interesting. I can see how important Aikido is to you, and it totally makes sense, because it is the non-aggression principle in a martial art, right? You can defend yourself, but you cannot use it to attack or damage someone else. You can only use it to defend yourself, and it's so fascinating.
Yeah, and you mentioned the ayahuasca before, and all the healing that's taking place on that, and I've been around that a lot recently and gotten to see the healing both in myself and others, and it's pure Aikido. You know, I've watched a couple of people have miserable experiences, and in each of those two cases, they went in absolutely determined to control this motherfucker. And my wife said, listen, you know, it's like giving birth. You know, you can have that idea, but if you're actually going to try to be in charge of this universal birth that's coming through you right now, it's going to be painful, it's going to be dangerous, and ultimately you're going to need to let go. And it's the same thing with the ayahuasca. I see people working with very deep stuff that potentially is let go in the course of a few hours, actually instantaneously once the moment comes. And that's pure Aikido, what you're doing inside your psyche and your emotions and relaxing the body, even in purging. It's a matter of letting go to what wants to happen in nature through you.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. I always, whenever ayahuasca comes up, just encourage people to really do your research, find an amazing shaman who's really doing it for the right reasons, because it's very, very important that you have the right guidance.
Absolutely. This
Really
is not
important.
a recreational drug. This is a blessing of nature that's very powerful. So you want to make sure that you're prepared and ready, and then in good hands when you do it. Set and setting once again.
I'm with you. So I'd like to just take us back to where we were at before, and I think this is really the question that it comes down to. How do we get more people on board to reality, on board to onto the path of love, essentially, and truth, in a gentle way, other than, okay, so we've got the movie, I've got my podcast, this is why I'm doing the podcast, but how do we, because we need to get billions of people. I mean, really, we have the entire planet has to wake up, or we're not going to have a planet. So what would you say to people out there who they feel the call and they feel the love and they want to serve, they want to be at service?
Yeah.
But they're working a job, or they're who knows what. What would you say to people who want to get involved?
Well, first of all, to recognize that in this particular era, we've got technology where you can be in a global conversation virtually instantaneously. I discovered that in college, and I had a bunch of friends who went on and developed companies in Silicon Valley, developed the communication technologies, and they knew at the time, so someday we're going to have a global instantaneous information delivery system. And I said, well, that's far out. I said, I'm not really interested in the technology. I'll work on the content, and hopefully by the time you've got that, I'll have something that's worth delivering. And fortunately, it coincided just perfectly for Thrive that the technology was already there, the internet was there, Anonymous was there to protect it. And so I recommend that people when they look to get active, look to see how you can scale your activism globally, and media is usually the quickest way. But also, I would say, parallel to that, I think the most important message to spread is freedom. And if you're trying to spread freedom from a place of darkness and constriction, it's not going to work very well. So make sure that you have a parallel path of clearing yourself until you are a glowing model for freedom. Because then people are going to be asking you, what is it about you? You know, what's working for you? How do I get some of that? And then they want to know about freedom instead of, condescendingly saying, you people are into just dominating the rest of us and violence and all that. They don't want to hear it like that. So if you're embodying it and you access the media, you're going to reach. I never thought in my lifetime I would reach over 100 million people with this message, and that's happened already in a few years.
Yeah, it's awesome, and exactly what you said. It's just about doing the work on yourself and being that shining example. It's the most important message that there is. Yeah. Bashar, I don't know if you've ever looked at this.
Sure.
Yeah, love Bashar.
Yeah.
Amazing, changed my life. And one of the things he said, I'm paraphrasing, but it really was profound for me was, you're already doing everything you need to be doing just by your presence here. Everything like that you see and manifest, whatever, that's just proof of it. Yeah. But the fact that you're here, you are doing it. So be conscious in your presence here. Don't just take your life for granted. You're here for a reason. We're all here for a reason.
And when I lead workshops, I often begin by just recognizing that a lot of people feel helpless and hopeless, and what can one person do, and that type of thing. And I just make it very clear to break through that right away. Listen, I know who you are, and if you don't, I'll remind you. Picture yourself You've signed up for a swimming race. It's an ocean race. You've gone down to the beach. You can't even see the buoy that you got to swim to. It's so far out there. But you look to the right, and there's like 50 million people on the beach. You look to the left, there's another 50 million. They're all in the same fucking race. And now the gun goes off, and you take off. What are the chances that you would win that race? Well, that's the one race you already won to get here. When you were a sperm, you were up against 100 million others, and you were the one who had the intention and the power to get here to do this. So what are you here to do?
Yeah, and also on an even higher level, like, we were spirit. We chose to be here. There's no coincidence.
Yeah.
And I personally have had, I'm sure you've had many, but I've had some profound experiences recently where I was actually totally sober and awake and conscious during a shift from one reality to another. Where as I was falling, really, all I did was go to sleep one day, and I was having profound experiences, and I just put out a lot of just love to the universe. I just thanked the universe for fucking an amazing life and putting me here, and how lucky. And I just poured out love. And as I fell asleep one night, this memory, just some memory from my life popped up, and in one split second, I had another memory of the same thing, but it was a totally different memory, and I thought, these both can't exist in the same timeline. What the fuck? And I was confused, and this kind of knowingness came over me that was just like, just let it go. It's okay. Don't worry about it. So I went to sleep, woke up, and the next day my friend comes on Skype and says, "Hey, have you heard of the Mandela effect?" Wow. You know about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I experienced shifting into another reality, and for a moment remembered the old one, and then boom, was in a new one. And so, and I know, and I've been inquiring into why that is. It's because I'm supposed to go and tell people you can change the reality you're in consciously. So be conscious.
I would love to hear a stand-up routine based on that. I mean, I can see a lot of humor in what this reality looks like compared to that reality, but I love when humor actually ends by profoundly touching people and transforming their lives. So thanks for doing that.
Well, do what we can. Hopefully you're around tomorrow for comedy therapy.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's awesome. Beautiful. So I guess in conclusion, was there one other juicy thing I was going to say about you? Yeah. So one fascinating topic. I have another friend who actually was a speaker at the conference, and I've been in touch with him. And he's been saying for a really long time, he's just like, man, they keep blocking, but we almost have the funding. They've got funding coming, and they've got all kinds of crazy-ass projects. And they're basically saying at some point it will be safe. At some point the powers would have shifted enough where everything is going to start coming out. All the free energy, all the health, all the healing, it's all here already. It's been here for a long time, but suppressed. Do you feel that there really will be a time soon, relatively soon, where it will be safe to really start putting out the technology that already exists?
Are you talking just about the technology, or are you talking about the release of funds from Asia?
I mean, I'd be excited about the release of funds for Asia because I know that's going to kickstart a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Well,
so really
let me address both because they're really intertwined. Well, I'm here to tell you from my own experience that the free energy phenomenon is real, the cures for cancer are real, and the Asian gold is real. And I've been pretty intimately involved in that. I've been to China and met with some of the top elders over there and been educated for years about it. And they have shown me evidence 100 times over that shows that they have the wealth and that their intentions are to release it for humanitarian purposes. And with the people that I know, they've tried to release 3 different times. The first time they did a test, well, they didn't know it was a test, but a Japanese prince sent $10.7 billion through a New York bank into the U.S. to distribute. And they delayed because they take it and trade on platforms and all that. And then they finally just said, well, sorry, we don't have any record of doing business with you. And this prince was a little pissed off, as you can imagine. He says, well, I have all the records, and you just stole $10.7 billion. And so their response was, well, too bad. Who are you going to go to? We run the whole thing. So they realized, okay, we can't start releasing funds because it's going to go in exactly the wrong hands. Then they tried 2 other times, one out of Hong Kong, and one of my close associates in the Dragon family was poisoned in the process. Somebody got into his hotel room when he was out, doused it in arsenic. He came back, collapsed a few minutes later, and he was in the hospital for 2 weeks, and he's alive and well. But it was a very close call, and they realized, okay, we need to have the security better before we do that. Then the third time, actually, Kimberly and I were invited to come to Indonesia by a prince who's in charge of the money over there for a release of the funds. So we had our security team check that out, and the word came back, no, don't go anywhere near it. It's a real attempt, but the Bush cartel is all over this. It's going to be very dangerous. So we didn't go. And the prince himself was poisoned, and a friend of mine from Australia who's also been collecting leading-edge technologies was also poisoned. So, okay, now they've had to delay again for several years. So they've finally been waiting until they had an administration which was friendly to this project. Obama was a puppet of the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, and he just kept stopping it right at the last minute. And with the Trump administration, what I'm being told is that he's he's in favor of it, and that it's going to happen once he's got all of his people in. So I think that there's a very real chance that that's going to happen. If anybody thinks the whole gold thing is a myth, go read The Gold Warriors by a couple named Seagrave that lay out all the facts, and they've got 2,000 photographic and text documents to support the whole thing. And then in terms of the energy technologies, and I've included in that the health technologies and the agricultural and the environmental technologies, because they're really, I mean, as I've met over 1,000 inventors now and just kind of climbed the pyramid of knowledge to the ones I'm working with right now, the knowledge is the same. It's at such a high, just as physics affects chemistry, which affects biology, which affects psychology, there's this pyramid effect in nature. There's the same thing in science. So once you get to the quantum level, when you get to that 0 point where you can, in a sense, create or access a still point in time, and if you can manipulate the field in healthy ways around that, you can move things forward or backwards in biological unfoldment. And therefore you can age tequila or wine or beer or something like that. And that's, wonderful, be a fun business and so forth, but trivial compared to the fact that you can actually reverse cells that are cancerous to before they were afflicted. And I have watched recently several of my friends being saved from stage 4 cancer, and those same inventors who are doing that medically are also rescuing lakes and rivers and oceans. They're rescuing orchards and fields. They're decreasing the amount of water that's needed to grow twice the yield and so forth. So the technology is already here. I like to say that the problems all come down to breakdowns in the wholeness of natural systems, and the solutions are recognizing that and then using technologies, using consciousness, using collaboration amongst human beings to restore the wholeness to those natural systems. I've been blessed to see that in all 12 sectors of human endeavor, the solutions that are needed are already in existence. We like to say we already have what it takes to thrive, but now it's simply a matter of gathering the finances and having Aikido strategies and security strategies which can keep these geniuses safe while we get these technologies out to the rest of the world. And I think it's going to be happening this year, next year. This is going to be the most exciting time in human history.
This is what I hear. This is what I hear from multiple sources. This is happening now.
Good.
Next couple of years.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And I know you could. You said you're open for people who have certain skills to come. Let the people know who are listening. If they want to help, they want to get involved. What can they do?
Great. Yeah. If you've got skills that you would want to apply for these sorts of projects, be they technical skills or management skills, manufacturing, security skills, legal skills, and especially if you have financial resources that you don't need in your daily life that could go to these geniuses who are actually rescuing the rest of us, let me know, because literally we're starting to have the meetings right now to bring out multiple projects. We launched our first one in Costa Rica a couple of months ago, and now's the time that it's happening. So for the sake of the rest of your species and for your children and grandchildren, now's the time to put that money to good use. So contact me at info@thrivemovement.com. We get probably 1,000 communications a day, so say that you heard me on this podcast in your email to info@thrivemovement.com, and they'll make sure that I receive it.
Just a practical question. Is it only people who want to donate money, or is there investment opportunities where you can actually invest money and then also get it back at some point?
Both, yeah. There are there are humanitarian projects there where people are giving things away, and we just need to help people who are drastically in need. But then there are investment opportunities that may take a little longer to get off the ground than some regular things because of the security issues and the suppression and so forth. And as they are successful, people will have the satisfaction of not only significant financial return, but the fact that they really stepped up at this particular time and, saved the oceans or the forests or that they provided clean energy for the world.
Unbelievable. Dude, I know you're a busy guy. Absolutely an honor. So much fun to connect with you and see your talk, and I really hope we can get you back on the podcast another time.
I look forward to it. This was fun.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.